Alright, skipping the intro, going straight right into the video. My name is Random. If you don't know who I am, I'm the guy who did the quarterback draft video, running back, wide receiver, and that's why my channel kind of blew up. So, before the combine, I'm just going to do all the positions, or at least try to. So for this one, I'm going to do the edge rushing position because I think this class goes pretty deep. I think there's a lot of talented players. There's a lot of teams in need of an edge rusher, so, it's the perfect match. Big disclaimer before we get into the list, I am not a professional. Please do not take my words serious. I think people are getting a better understanding of this. I'm not a professional, I'm just a casual mind with just a little bit more knowledge. I'm trying to understand the game as well as you are, so, bear with me if I sound like an idiot. Because I'm more of an offensive guy than I am defense. I know a lot more about the offense than I do defensive positions. Then, if I sound like a complete tool or I don't know what I'm talking about, please cut me some slack. I'm trying my hardest with this one. So, without further ado, let's get straight right into the list. Alright, let's start things off with Abdul Carter. Alright, just pretend if Chop Robinson and Micah Parsons were gay lovers and could make a child, and that's how you get Abdul Carter. Switching from an off-ball linebacker to a defensive end, or other words, edge rusher, Carter is special talent. And I really would not be shocked, and I'm really hoping teams like the Titans or Browns say, you know what, fuck the quarterback. Here's a generational defensive player who's going to boost our defense by a ton. Like, he's just a damn freak of nature and a pure athlete. With a ceiling through the roof, 6'3", 250 pounds, power cleans 350 and runs a 4.48 and can broad jump damn near 11 feet. This guy is going to be a damn nightmare for quarterbacks to face. As a true freshman, he already had 10 tackles for loss, which is absolutely huge, alongside 6 sacks and breaking up 4 passes, showing flashes from the start. He is going to be hell, and he is just going to be a fucking problem for all quarterbacks to face. With Carter, there's no such thing as a clean pocket. You saw how he did versus SMU. He made the quarterback forget he was a quarterback. And when he does get to your quarterback, eventually it's either going to result in a forced fumble, which he's done multiple times, because he's a hard hitter, or it's going to be a big loss for yards. Either way, he's going to fuck up your game plan, as we've seen in the last year with a record high number of sacks at 12. And remember, he's doing this after he switched positions. This is his first year as an edge rusher, and look what the impact he's already making. Now, for the weaknesses, if I had to point out any, as I do with my videos, I had to point out weaknesses for every player just because, nobody is perfect. So if I had to list any weaknesses, as I mentioned, he switched positions. Very impressive for what he's done so far. While he's a lot of a better edge rusher than he was a linebacker, he's still pretty raw for his position, and I think a lot of people are taking note today. And he relies heavily on his athleticism and will definitely need a lot more development with hand techniques and learning counter moves when going against things like double teams or down blocks. So he's got a ton of learning to still do when it comes to edge play, but nothing really I'm going to worry about if I were a GM, because what I've seen off his footage alone just shows me worthiness of a top 5 pick alone. Hell, if it wasn't for Travis Hunter, I think honestly he should just be the number 1 pick overall. Carter is going to be an absolute game changer, just a damn wrecking ball of pain. As I said, Parsons 2.0, I'm doubling down on it. Micah Parsons 2.0, and for playing the edge position for such little time as he has and doing so much damage, he is going to be such an immediate impact wherever he lands. I'm a huge fan of his, and I really cannot wait to see what defense he's going to elevate to the next level. And now for my personal favorite, James Pierce Jr. Absolute dog right here. I think behind Carter, he's the second best this class will have to offer for the position of edge rusher. Everything about him, it's something to love. Pierce is just something a lot of teams should just go nuts over. He's projected top 15 at the moment with the chance of going top 10 depending on how the combines go. Like I said, to me, he's just a crazy talent. He's crazy. Everything about him is just something you really just want on your team. He's a very talented pass rusher. Let's get into the details. For starters, he is 6'5". He's 240 pounds, which yes, is light for his height, but I'm sure he's going to make up for it eventually. And he runs a 4.49. This guy has got just to be terrifying to face next to Carter if I'm a quarterback. His 2023 season had him recording 10 sacks, nearly 15 tackles for loss. Offenses usually tend to double team him from the start, which is why his stats are what they are this year, and always tend to really ignore whatever direction he's aligned against. He's a rare case and a rare blend of talent with a combination of length given his size, 6'5", he's fucking huge, and explosiveness and just strength with elite speed in his first step that will force linemen to bail out their stances. Alongside his speed when rushing, he's got excellent hand usage, especially with his rip move, and he showcases a lot in his footage, just overall showing all the instincts you would want in an edge rusher. Especially with the great timing on his snap that makes all tackles jump. And the football IQ he possesses that allows him to recognize the play being called by the offense so he can change his path, signal off a direction, or just do something to help him get towards the quarterback quicker. And truthfully, what would just ultimately allow for him to apply the most pressure? He is finishing his college career with the second highest rated pressure rating in the league and 19%, recording 110 quarterback rushers over his college years. For weaknesses with Pierce Jr., I could say he's quite a liability for the run game, especially run heavy plays. I will notice he is taken out. He's obviously rotated for someone else, which is something to know. And another thing would be his moves. As I feel it's a common thing with most edge rushers out of college, They're still developing their technique, relying on what they have. In this case for Pierce, it would just be him using his speed to pressure. Rather than having a wide variety of moves to beat out tackles, this is something he definitely should develop on when he's in the league. And for his third concern, I know this one's gonna sound crazy and a lot of people be like, are you fucking kidding me? Yes, I'm picking this out. His weight. His weight is definitely a little bit of a concern to me. I mean, he's 240 pounds. The minimum requirement, or I mean, not requirement, there is no requirement, but you know, the standard is like 260 plus. He's a little bit on the lighter side. I mean, definitely on the lighter side for a defensive end, and it definitely would allow for him to be moved off of any spot. Ultimately, though, if I had to sum it up, Pierce Jr. is one of the best this class will have to offer. You know damn well why. For great reasons. I mean, the weaknesses in this game are not enough to make me not look into him if I was a team within the top 15. I mean, once the clock starts ticking and he's available, I'm going with him if Carter is not an option. There are a lot of talented players, but I think if I want to up my defense, you can't go wrong with Pierce Jr. And if he falls anywhere out the top 20 or even the first round, may I dare say, any team would not take the chance on him deserves to be smacked upside the head with a brick. Unless you're the Jaguars. I mean, they know plenty about passing up on great defensive end players. I mean, everything he brings with him, like, I mean, the tools he possesses, the pressure, everything he's just going to add to any defensive scheme he goes to alone just makes him a prospect you really cannot pass on if you have the chance. Alright, and now we have Princely Umanmielen. What the fuck? Okay, that is one hell of a name, but for the sake of I'm an idiot, I'm just going to call him U-Man. Princely U-Man. This guy, I don't see a lot of people talk about. I really don't. Like, you got the Carter talks, Pierce Jr., Williams, but U-Man, I don't see enough of, oddly. I think he's one of the more underrated choices here personally. Someone who could be seen as a developmental project. To start things off, very talented player with a perfect combination of speed and power at 6'4", 255 pounds. He spent most of his time over at Florida, which, I mean, really was nothing crazy. He didn't have a breakout season there like he did last year, but he did have a career best with 12 tackles for loss and racking up 7 sacks before hitting the transfer portal where he transferred to Ole Miss. And this is where he pitched up his very strong campaign as a top edge rusher in this year's class, getting nearly 11 sacks just this season alone, and he's doing this against solid competition as well, like Georgia, where he sacked Beck twice, fuck Carson Beck by the way, 2 times in the Oklahoma game, getting another sack against Florida and 1.5 against Kentucky. Any NFL team who lands him in the second round like he's projected, which is crazy, I think he's a first round talent. But if he goes as the projections say, remember the media is a bunch of fucking clowns anyways, but if the projections are right, you're getting an absolute steal in U-Man. Footage will show you he's an explosive first step player with great mobility and amazing hand usage that allows for great separation. U-Man is able to beat tackles very consistently with his hands and moves like his spin, and can always get to the quarterback with excellent timing. He's also able to recognize plays and will maintain on the backside to help containment against the run. For weaknesses with U-Man, I'm just gonna say I feel it's gonna be a common issue with most of the defensive ends here, but it's just the moveset. It's the moves. I think him developing more moves would actually do him a lot better. Because in his case, it's like he only does the spin move, so spamming a spin move every drive will just really allow for the lineman to adapt to his technique, and it's not going to be hard at all to really stop him. I think having a larger variety of moves would benefit him greatly. If I had any other mentions I could see as a negative, but of course nothing too crazy that would turn me away, it would just be sometimes he can lose containment on a drive and allow for cutback lanes to be open and can be blown out by a combo block. So adding more strength I think would do him great as well. Overall, I think U-Man can be a great addition to most defenses and will bring a lot to the table. As I said in the second round, which my god, these projections are crazy. If he falls in the second round, he's an absolute steal your team cannot miss out on. As seen in his college years, he's someone who's going to continue to develop, add to his game, and is just bound to be an impactful rusher once he's inside the league. Depending where he lands, that system might be what he really needs to bring out his true potential. I still think he falls lower on the boards, but I still think he might sneak in the first. Places like Atlanta, Cincinnati, Baltimore, even Buffalo should really just be looking out for this guy. Like I said, if he falls, teams are making big mistakes. I mean, who knows? This guy might be one of the best deals to come out of the night. Alright, so I know I said I have Mike Chipson on like Carter being the best, Pierce Jr. being my personal favorite. Well, if I had a guy who is going to be the dark horse of this draft, I'm 100% putting it all on Mike Green. This guy is a damn menace on the field. If you watched him, you know what I'm talking about. Because, man, I'm telling you, can this guy ball out? I mean, fucking hell, like, alongside somebody I'll name later down the list, he's definitely one of the more underrated ends, and I mean very underrated, and deserves so much more attention than what he has been given. Mike Green should be on the top of every team's watch list coming to Combine. I mean, seriously, this dude is a damn monster athlete with everything he does. He has a wrestling background, which it does help with his football career. As far as measures, he ran a 4.57, but his bench press is 405 and he could squat 425. And for his freshman season, he recorded 43 tackles, 9 of those tackles resulting in loss, 5 sacks with 6 quarterback hurries. I mean, dude, this guy is nuts. He can shred through any offensive line without struggle, recording 17 sacks this year. Watching footage of this guy is fun. It's like he packs damn near every move in his arsenal, from hand swipes, swim moves, spin moves. I mean, really not a lot he can't do already. He's got a very explosive first step alongside his natural hip flexibility and amazing coordination. He is a nightmare for tackles to face. When the ball's snapped and you're a tackle and you're going up against him, I'm telling you, he is going to stress you out vertically before working his hands and counter moves, which, again, his hands are going to be perfect come Sundays. You know, scouts, pay attention to this one. He's able to create great separation in his matchups so consistently, and his overall ability to always track the ball, whether it's a run play or passing play, he is going to flatten somebody. Now, for some weaknesses, I would slightly note, for one, against bigger linemen or just double teams in general, his frame can get washed out pretty easily when attacking. Given he's only 248 pounds and the ideal weight is 260, I'm going to keep mentioning this because I think if you're below 260 by at least a good amount, then it is something to note. But again, this is just a small issue, and secondly, if I had another thing, it would just have to be the competition he's faced. Yes, he's a gifted player with a monster frame, 6'4", he's a very strong physical player. But how many of those teams are actually top talent? I mean, the toughest team he played so far was Ohio State, and he was held to just 2 tackles and a sack. So I could say definitely the limited exposure can be something to note, because it raises questions on if he can actually translate this exact type of playstyle against top tier talent at the next level and much bigger linemen, may I mention. Overall, I think Mike Green is going to be another steal added to the night. Like, there are going to be so many steals coming from this category, that category, this one. This draft is definitely going to be one to remember on the defensive side because there are so many talented players in this draft. I really hope his name gets out more. I really hope he gets a lot more attention from media. I hope I start seeing people talk about him on YouTube more. It's kind of like the whole Cam Scatterbo thing. I don't see a lot of attention on him. Very talented player, and he's going to go under a lot of people's radars. I mean, fuck the hell. If a team takes him within the top 15 or even the first itself, I'm not going to be shocked. He is someone who's going to make an impact day one. He's going to be a major help to all defenses, especially special teams. I mean, even in kick coverage and block units. Behind the right system and adding more power to his game, I mean, he's got all the tools every team would want. He's a very gifted player, and I have no doubt in my mind he's going to succeed. I'm crossing my fingers if a team had to take him. I really hope he lands somewhere like Atlanta, Baltimore, Carolina, Bengals. Hell, I even say Philadelphia because they're known for always taking steals of the draft. He's a very aggressive player and someone all teams should really aim at. Again, aim at this guy. Do not let him fly under your radar. So depending on how everything goes, like I said, the combine, the bowl, hopefully his name gets out there more, and I really hope teams do not pass him on Mike Green. I think he's going to be a very talented player, and I think he's going to be another just great steal coming out of the draft. Now we got Josiah Stewart, another one I really don't see a lot of people talk about. He's projected a second round, but even then, that's not a bad thing. That's only because this class goes so deep. I'm going to go ahead and get it out of the way. Yes, he is definitely on the smaller side of an edge rusher, and that's probably why definitely he's not on top of a lot of people's boards. But before playing at Michigan and winning a national championship, he went to Coastal Carolina, where he set the program's single-season sack record with 12.5 sacks his freshman season, earning first-team All-Sun Belt honors and freshman All-American recognition. His sophomore season did look actually pretty identical before he took a town to the transfer portal, and that's how he landed at Michigan. Over at Michigan, he was leading all defensive linemen with 38 tackles, including 8.5 for loss and 5.5 sacks. Stewart's got the athleticism, a motor coaches just love to see, an amazing speed for his position with a quick burst off the first step. He also has a great variety of techniques like his rip and swim, his cross chop that give him just the advantage in most of his matchups. Stewart has proven to be a very effective defensive player who can line up in a variety of positions, making him a much very wanted asset for teams with multiple defensive linemen. Because he can really just adjust to about any defensive scheme, whether he is rushing from a standing position or has his hand in the dirt. He's going to make a stop either way. One thing he does that makes him such a good defensive player is the pressure he brings. Having a pressure rating around 17.1 and ranks him third among Big Ten edge defenders in the past season. Now we get to the weaknesses. I will say, while he does well in pass rushing on run plays, his bull rushing and moves in general seem to struggle against tougher linemen. Because this might translate to him facing plenty of challenges in the NFL when matching up against elite tackles and will probably result in him getting pushed out to play. Another thing is his shedding technique. While it's good, it needs to be a lot more consistent, just like a lot of the other edge players here on the list. Stewart also has a tendency to get stuck on blocks and can struggle to break off of these, which also feeds into the first concern of him against powerful offenses. It's something he will definitely have to improve on as he goes on, and he'll definitely need to add more power into his game. Overall, I think Stewart possessed the right traits, the high motor, and the potential to be an immediate contributor as an edge rusher in the NFL with the high potential to even be a top-tier pass rusher in the next few years. I think definitely his size is always going to bring concerns because, I mean, being 6'1", 245 in the league, he's definitely going to face struggles. There's never going to be a time where he doesn't. I mean, I think his pros really do just outweigh the cons a little bit more. I mean, the versatility he could bring where he can line up anywhere and it just works. Technique and the ability to be an every down guy just makes him a giant appeal to most teams in the second round. To me, he comes off more as a project with a high upside if the development is there, because under the right system, I'm telling you, just like most players, I'm sure they can make him much more of a dominant force than he is already presenting to be. Teams in the second like Buffalo, Washington, Green Bay, even the Chargers, who I think are losing Khalil Mack in the spring, so they could really use a guy like Stewart. I'm going to say this a lot, and it's going to sound like I'm a damn broken record, and I'm probably going to see it in the comments, but I'm going to keep saying it because it is true. Just like Stewart, and just like a lot of the other guys down lower on the list or above the list, he's a low-risk investment with a really high upside, and I really hope teams start paying attention towards him. Alright, now we have Donovan Ezeiruaku. Oh my god. Man, what is up with edge rushers having names I can't pronounce? God damn. Alright, you know, I'm gonna call him Donovan for the sake of I can't say that shit. Anyways, why is this guy not on more boards? Why is he not higher up on boards? Like, why is Donovan not being talked about more? I know I hype up players a lot. Like, people call me the self-glazer, the glazing king, you know, shit like that. But he's way too talented to not be talked about more. Like, I don't see enough mock drafts with his name. Am I saying he should be a first rounder? No, but I wouldn't be shocked if someone pulls a trigger on him. He's a very productive player on defense, and I'm really hoping the Combine puts his name up draft boards because teams are going to regret passing up on him. I'm calling it now. Just like Green, I'm betting Donovan becomes another steal out of this draft class. Now, let's talk about Donovan's pros real quick, shall we? First of all, he has 34 inch arms. That is long. That is insane to think about. I mean, it makes sense why he rarely misses when his hands make contact with nearly 17 sacks. 3 forced fumbles and forcing a bunch of quarterback hurries, along with 80 total tackles this year. With great bend and ankle flexion, he's able to keep his pace when turning around the corner against tackles. He remains to be a very consistent player with a motor that gives you the same level of effort every snap, which is something you would want every down because the block shedding he can do with a wide variety of moves like the rip, swim, club, even the dip move. It creates opportunities for him or others to make tackles for loss. He's also a versatile defender who is capable of more than one techniques like the 4-3, or if he needs to be a stand-up outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, he can do it. Regardless, he's going to go out there and he's going to make a play. This is something a lot of NFL teams are going to love about him. Alright, weakness time. Well, I do love his game, and I think he's one of the more ready players here for the draft. There's always a weakness in everyone's game, you know, because no prospect is perfect. And for him, while his arms are long at 34 inches, he is light for his position. He is completely undersized, being only 6'2" and 247 pounds. Which again, I know some people are going to say, oh, size doesn't matter. I know it doesn't. I know there have been plenty of players his size or smaller who have made great edge rushers. It's just, well, you know, it doesn't stack up when he's going up against bigger linemen. And also for his size to know, he doesn't exactly pack elite speed or an explosive first step, sometimes being the last defender to make a move. So I guess that's where the concern comes in about how he will hold up against NFL linemen, which again are much more inferior than the competition and tackles he matched up against so far. I think this issue might cause some limitations in his career that might hinder with his development and that may prevent him from reaching his true potential. I mean, besides it being undersized, I really cannot think of anything else I find to be a problem. He's pretty polished and he's a player I would have no issue taking. If I had to take Donovan, I'm 100% taking him late first, early second. I mean, the latest, if he falls any lower, it is a crime. This is a player I think a lot of people have their eye on, except the media, because of course the media is ran by fucking sponges. But a lot of people really do know who Donovan is, and they know he just packs a lot of talent. And I don't think a lot of people would mind him on their teams for great reasons. I think he would fit well in a lot of systems. Preferably, I feel like his talents would look amazing on the Niners next to Bosa and Floyd, or even Detroit, which if they do this, dude, I'm telling you, the league is fucked at this point. I mean, like, the last thing we need is Detroit getting their hands on another great edge rusher. Or even the Buccaneers. I mean, I really like that spot. I mean, I really like when anyone lands on the Buccaneers. Very underrated team. But anywhere, truthfully, is just a great fit for him. I have a really good feeling about Donovan. I really wish the best for his career. Again, I'm going to sound like a broken record saying this, but he's just another low risk with a very high payoff. Under the right system, I'm telling you, he's going to make 31 other teams look stupid. Melvin Williams. Oh, god damn it. This is where the controversy, this is where the angry comments are going to come from. I'm going to keep it real because nobody's going to say it, or at least just, you know, because it's my video, you know, I'm going to keep it real. Honesty is the best policy. Remember that, kids. And being real as I can be, I don't see it. I don't see it. No disrespect. I mean, he's talented. I'm definitely going to say he's talented. He looks great. I mean, I'm going to talk about his pros as I do with most of the players, but like, to me, I just don't see the hype. I really don't. He's still a very raw player. I mean, hell, just fucking, he's coming out as a junior. He's a very raw player. I mean, hell, Jalen Walker might be a better pick to invest in. I mean, 5 sacks for the year with only 21 total tackles. That does not scream first round to me. I mean, I feel like the hype is here only because of what he can be down the line like 3 to 4 years into his fucking rookie season, and not what he is right now coming out of Georgia. I mean, a lot of people are investing to what his untapped potential could look like when he's developed correctly. I mean, I agree, that's a whole different thing to look into, but I think if you're drafting him based on how he looked previously this year at Georgia, I would not take him, but that's just me personally. Alright, let's get into the pros, because I mean, what type of commentator would I be if I just ranted and didn't give you the pros? So for starters, he's got a crazy frame that fits the ideal, just the perfection for an edge rusher and what teams want. He's 6'5" and 265, which is, again, perfect. And he appears to have long arms, which is why he's great for creating separation against linemen, and it gives him great reach to disrupt any play. He's a powerful rusher when he can be, with a very nice first step and a motor that never gets tired. See, now this, I will say, yes, he does never get tired when attacking, especially against the run, which it seems he excels at much better and recognizing it a lot better than he does the pass rush. He packs a very violent block shedding technique that allows him to run right past most tackles and track down where the ball is, and while doing so, he usually consistently always collapses the pocket, which I will admit, he is great at doing that. Like, if you watch the highlights of him, you know damn well this man can shut down any pocket and he can just disrupt any play. Versatility is another strength of his where you could really just put him about anywhere. I mean, in the dirt, have him standing up, he has no problem rushing at any alignment he's in. See, while he might have not been great this year, I think honestly he's shown enough flashes for people to look at him and go, oh yeah, this guy, if development is right and you know what his potential can be, I would take him. For fuck's sakes, imagine this guy getting drafted by Detroit or even Philadelphia. I mean, all it takes is the right system, and I'm telling you, this guy can be a scary player for years to come. Now, for weaknesses, let's start with consistency. Again, this is where I'm getting at. If we're going based on now versus later, it's a whole different thing. If we're talking about now, he's not very consistent, because at the next level, I really can't say how consistent his power moves will work against larger and tougher linemen, who are way different than the matchups he's faced, where in these matchups he has relied heavily on his moves and strength rather than beating him out with his speed. Another issue is he loses containment on the quarterback pretty often. Like, his weaknesses aren't bad if you draft him, but for as high as some people have him going, it is such a risk, because I feel like with him, he's the only player I say out of all the edge rushers, I can really just give him the label of boom or bust. I mean, he's either or. Either he is going to be the best thing out of this class, or he's going to be one of the worst edge rushers that you could take in the first round. I'm just saying, we've been through this before. This reminds me a lot of the Trayvon Walker talks back in 2022, and we know exactly how that went. Overall, again, I'm just going to keep mentioning he's a great talent, but for where these mock drafts have him at, it is really questionable. As a GM, I really couldn't help but feel nervous with him. I mean, if I was a GM, like I said, I wouldn't know how to feel, because if he succeeds, it's a perfect pick. But as myself, with a lot of reports I see on him and footage itself, it's a large concern that he might not even really progress beyond being a more just a quality run defender who occasionally has flashes in the pass and run game. I mean, the snap count limitations he faces already at Georgia and overly relying on his natural ability over using actual technique and power moves makes him such a risky pick that only the right system can make into the next best thing. But really, only time is going to tell. I mean, that's how it works with all these players. I can't label him a bust. I can't say, don't draft this guy. Like, you know, he might be the next best thing and I might look like a fucking clown next year. I think of Williams, a lot of teams are just hoping this pick pans out right, and they're just hoping they get an absolute steal in the next best defensive end in the league. I mean, I really wish him nothing but the best, but if he doesn't become exactly what teams are expecting him to be, don't say I didn't warn you. Alright, so now we have Jack Sawyer and JTT. Alright, so my best friend's been a Buckeyes fan his entire life, told me if I was going to do Jack Sawyer, I had to include JTT, and I really can't blame him. Shout out to him, he knows who he is. So for this one, I'm going to save time and do both at once, since they're both from the same defensive line. And let me start by saying, these guys are damn near identical. I mean, it is tough, but I mean, of course, Sawyer is faster, but what they contribute to the Buckeyes, each stat-wise, is nearly the same. Both are pure leaders any locker room be happy to get their hands on. So let's start with Jack Sawyer. The people's favorite, the same guy can make me piss myself. He looked at me hard enough. I mean, this man is built and looks like Max Crosby. And no, that's not a comparison. I'm not saying anything about him as identical to Crosby except looks. I'm just saying. Anyways, with a very intimidating physique at 6'5" and 246 pounds, with a big motor that never gives up on any play, being a versatile player, meaning he can be put in the dirt, standing up, it doesn't matter to him, because when the ball is snapped, all that matters is he's going to attack whatever is in his way. And this is why I give quarterbacks or running backs more respect than anything, because they have to deal with people like this for an entire game. Me, on the other hand, I would hand him the ball and pray he doesn't knock the ever-living shit out of me. On the point of attack, he has an okay first step, nothing crazy, with great leverage and solid hand usage. Very effective against the run, like may I mention, probably one of the best run defenders here in the draft. Possessing a good moveset between his bull rush and cross shot to shed through blocks and disrupt the backfield. Especially when deflecting the ball. I mean, he is really great at this. I mean, this guy is a monster when it comes to collapsing the pocket. He has a stat line of 17 quarterback hurries alone his sophomore season. And this year, to end his college career, he had a pressure rating of 17%. Now that we got his pros out of the way, let's get to his other partner in crime, JTT. JTT, a last name like that only means great things about his career. I'm going to be the first to say, I can't pronounce the last name, so you know what, I'm going to just call him JTT. If you don't like it, fucking deal with him, and I don't know what else to tell you. 10 sacks this year alone with 27 total tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 31 quarterback pressures. Hell, I think honestly he might be the better of the duo, but that's just me. With great size, being 6'5" and 269 pounds, making him the heavier one out of the both. Still an absolute menace. I wish more people would at least give him more credit than what he's been given so far. I just think people are paying a lot more attention towards Jack Sawyer, which I mean, I can't blame him. Great player. It's just y'all are sleeping a lot on JT, especially the scouts, and this might be a big mistake. Sawyer and JT have always been the perfect combo for a defense. I mean, JT's ability to collapse the pocket, which is by far one of his strongest abilities about him. By driving the tackles back, it adds immense pressure to the quarterback, giving him less space to make a play, which either results in a hurry or potentially can lead to a sack or pick. Like, JT is amazing at setting up plays for other defenders to come in and do something. And not to mention, just like Sawyer, he's also pretty versatile, capable of either standing up or in the dirt. All that matters is when the ball is snapped, he's quick on the point of attack, using his IQ to recognize the play being called by the offense. So he knows how to align himself, showcasing great hand usage to keep his separation, and will occasionally use a spin move to get around tackles if his speed doesn't do it already. And if you have watched him, you really don't need an explanation on the next part. The guy is a turnover machine. If you have seen him, as I just mentioned, for example, one of the best games I think to look at is Penn State, where he came up big multiple times, stopping the run and pass game. And there's even plenty of other games where he just comes up big and it's just the main X factor. He can swat the ball and he can even intercept the damn thing. I mean, there's just a lot he can provide to your defense that is just going to help shut down plays. And durability with this guy is something every team should take note on. I mean, he hasn't missed one game his entire college career. This is a guy I would want in my scheme. He is going to show up every week and he's going to make damn play after play. All right, now let's go into weaknesses for Jack Sawyer. Sawyer's weaknesses will have to be his use of hands when rushing the quarterback can be quite inconsistent. While having great usage, he can be late most of the time, allowing for linemen to make contact with him first. Secondly will be his limited athleticism. While he is pretty athletic, it's nothing elite by all means. I think there's plenty of other players here on the draft board that have a lot more athleticism than him. I mean, his is just above average if I had to say anything. Seeming stiff most of the time, lacking just a quick twitch, something like what Carter possesses, which is the same to say about his change of direction skills. And thirdly, his first step is nothing elite itself, or really anything explosive. I mean, he's not a super quick player to accelerate off the line type of guy. You know, this is something that could really just limit him as a pass rusher. As I said, his rush defense definitely makes him one of the better picks here. But as far as the pass rusher, while he can be solid, there's others who can do it better and can be a reason why he will face limitations in his career and why he's not going a lot higher up on draft boards. That's really all I can say about Jack Sawyer. I mean, he still is a hard player to block and definitely will apply a lot of pressure to your offense regardless, especially the run game. He's still a top talent I would love to have. I just think he definitely needs some development if he wants to reach his full potential as a pass rusher. Now let's get to JTT. Alright, JTT. With him, being honest, I couldn't find a ton of weaknesses just like Sawyer. It's only small concerns and what I think they can improve in to be a lot better. As I said, I'm a big fan of both guys, so here's what I found. Just like Sawyer, he does lack an elite first step and quick twitch, which can limit him on his pass rushing moves and the ability itself, which will determine the height of his ceiling if he can work and develop on this. JT can also definitely improve on his hand usage and be better on things like his timing and accuracy when going after the quarterback. Or sometimes because he's late to use his hands to get contact, he'll miss the play and allow the lineman to make contact with him first, pushing him away off the play. And the thing that got me the most is he just hasn't shown a lot of flashes of athletic traits in his game. Like, I'll say Sawyer definitely beats him on this part. Athletic traits like flexibility, explosiveness, as I mentioned already, maintaining balance and having a bend when turning corners. He's done it, but he doesn't do it consistently enough. Things like this is what he would have to be better at if he wants to be a productive rusher in the NFL. Genuinely, I couldn't find anything else. Then again, I don't really know what I'm talking about anyways. I have the IQ of a fucking raisin. He's pretty polished for what it seems, and the problems he does have are easier things to improve on, and he looks to be a pretty promising asset for teams to come to draft. Overall, either guy you get your hands on be a strong contributor to your defense and will make an impact day one. With Sawyer, you have someone who has the tools to develop into an every down starter in the NFL with a strong run defense and the ability that can fit into plenty defensive schemes. Something all teams should want in a player. That alone will just make him a great rotational player to start his rookie season, with the potential to grow into something even better if under the right development system. Teams like Cleveland, if they actually go quarterback, I think this will be a perfect situation if they decide to go quarterback and still want a great defensive player down the line. Detroit, who continue to produce all-pro talent like Tyreek Hill as children, but at worst, if his pass rushing ability doesn't develop, I could see Sawyer ultimately just being a great factor against the run and nothing more, with the floor of just being a 3 to 7 sack guy at best. And with JT, just like his partner, he's going to be a very high value asset as well. His ability to collapse the pocket, disrupt plays consistently makes him an immediate impact most teams are going to want. To sum JT up, his ceiling is still unknown depending on if he can fix up his pass rushing ability and develop more of a moveset along with his athletic traits. I'm telling you, if he can just refine all this, he can easily be a Pro Bowler in no time. But of course, all this will really depend where he gets drafted, just like Sawyer. If he doesn't reach his full potential, at worst, you just get yourself a great run defender. Both of these guys at the right picks are absolute steals, which just seems both players are projected a second to early third round, and at that point they're players I can't pass on. If I was a team in need of a defensive end but it wasn't my top priority but I still needed to get it done, I'm taking either one. But if I had the personal choice, I'm gonna go JTT just because the ceiling is still unknown. Regardless, both are not a bad choice. You can't go wrong with either one. They're too low risk with a high chance of being a big steal. And that will do it, ladies and gentlemen, for this random recap. I hope you all did enjoy. I apologize if you're kind of frustrated that, oh, he didn't really go in more detail. I'm trying my best each video by video, learning more about the position, especially the edge rushing position. I know there was a lot more that goes into it. I'm more of an offense guy. But anyways, that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I really hope you did enjoy. And I will see you all in the next random recap.